with a lot of people this weekend and again today, even at some union shops, some people who've said to me, you know, I voted for your opponent the last time. Some other folks at a manufacturing plant that told me they've historically voted Democrat, but they're voting for us. And they said the reason's simple. For the first time in their lifetime, someone in a statewide office has had the courage to take on the tough problems, the courage to tackle our fiscal and economic crisis in this state, to think more about the next generation than just the next election. And that's exactly what we set out to do.
And that was Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker last night talking to Brett Baer on Special Report ahead of today's make-or-break recall election here in the Badger State. And this is Power Play Internet. And guess what? I am still in Wisconsin. They have allowed me to stay for another day because tonight is the night when we're going to find out in this battle between public employee unions and conservative Republicans who are clashing over collective bargaining power and compulsory dues payments for government workers. What started as a local issue has boiled over into a national war. And we're at ground zero. As a matter of fact, here in Waukesha tonight is the place where Scott Walker will be, he hopes, claiming victory. The downside happens to be if you are a Wisconsin resident. Things have gotten very ugly out here as people back and forth. For those of you who were watching Fox News Channel last night, you got a little flavor of it there in Madison as the folks had some interesting thoughts about Governor Walker and politics that they offered in hot mic moments for you. So it's definitely very live up here, and that's why we love it. So let's get some perspective on this in terms of what the dynamics in the state are and what the direction is. Let's talk to Congressman Reid Ribble. He represents this state. So we're kind of in the wrong place, Congressman, aren't we? Shouldn't you be? You're from Wisconsin. I work in Washington. Shouldn't you be up here and I should be down there?
Well, I can tell you, Chris, I'd rather be in Wisconsin than in Washington. So I'm sure the weather's terrific. You're in God's country right now, so what a great place to be.
And I want to tell you that how great, I talked about how rough it is up here politically, but just I want to say again, this is one of the very finest places in the country, and the people here are really great. And I'm not just saying that because of your culture's love of cured meats and cheese.
Well, thanks for saying that. The people are friendly typically. The civil discourse has gotten a little bit clumsy here over the last 6 months, but we're anxious for this recall election to be over so people can get back to normal.
Okay, so tell us about Scott Walker. Tell us about what you know about him, and tell us about what's going to happen tonight by your way of thinking.
Sure. Listen, I've known Governor Walker for quite a while. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of his word. And I think what's taken some people back and taken them maybe a little bit by surprise is the fact that a politician's actually done what he said he would do. He'd come in, he'd address the fiscal problems that the state has had, and he did it without raising taxes. And so certainly there were some issues with how maybe things got messaged back early on, and I think maybe the governor might have made a misstep there or so. But the results are in what's happening. Wisconsin's economy is getting better, employment's going up, our unemployment's going down, and people have found out that the world hasn't come to an end, and I think that's why the governor is going to win this recall today.
Now, the polling looks pretty good, pretty good for Walker, but the challenge is, of course, we're expecting very high voter turnout, but certainly for Democrats, they know that they've got that core. They already did the signatures. They already mobilized those 900,000 signatures to get the recall done. They can count on the turnout. What are Republicans doing to make it happen for them?
You can bet that the Republicans are going to turn out today. This is what the 2010 elections were about, not just in Wisconsin, but nationally. The American people and the citizens in Wisconsin wanted these fiscal problems addressed. They wanted the employment problems addressed. They wanted some of these problems solved. And now that we've actually begun to make progress there, Republicans are going to turn out at the polls and reinforce what the governor's done. We're going to say thank you. Republicans are going to say thank you to the governor for standing with some courage and actually getting and addressing these big problems. And I think they're going to be out at the polls in droves. And I think the other side's going to come out. No matter what happens, the citizens of Wisconsin are going to go vote today, and you're going to see it in the numbers.
Well, and it's really amazing. It is a testament to the citizens of this state that voter turnout has always been traditionally high. But the projections today we're looking at maybe 67%, says the Secretary of State's election officials are projecting huge turnout. Question about Wisconsin is this. Your state had a 40-year truce almost, really, in the political war, because an evenly balanced state, basically a Democratic West versus a Republican East, and the state existed in sort of a purple haze, I guess, if you'll forgive me.
Yeah.
But now it's an open question about the future, and it's an open question in November. What are the stakes as it relates to this election and what it tells us about what happens in November?
Well, I certainly think you can make a connection to what might happen in November. Wisconsin has, over the last several presidential elections, gone to the Democrats. I think that this is a bit of a bellwether. I think the fact that President Obama flew over Wisconsin from Minneapolis to Chicago and didn't stop in Wisconsin to help Mayor Barrett is very telling. I mean, the most that he's done here is send out a tweet last night. And so I think the president doesn't want to be associated with the Democratic Party in case they lose today. And I think that the polling will show that that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, what the big question I think that Governor Walker has to address is how do we pull people back together after the recall is over? Because that's really what's important.
And you can tell there's a hunger here for people that they want this to be over. They're tired of it, and this has really been going on, if you think about it, since 2010 midterm elections. The state has been in this state of political upheaval, and as I've traveled across the state, you hear the people say, "Look, I just want this to be over. I don't agree with Walker on everything, but we need to stop this." And by the way, speaking of tweets, the president's tweet was, "I stand with Tom Barrett," and some wag on the internet retweeted it saying, "Yes, you're him." And so that was pretty funny. And I want to also tell the internet that you can follow me at C. Steyerwald on Twitter, I should point out. Congressman, so here's the deal. What you are doing in Washington, what the Republican team is doing in Washington resonates back here. Democrats in the state have talked about Tea Party this and Tea Party that and tried to make this very conservative Republican House an issue in this election. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's fair for them to try to make it an issue in the election, but I think the thing that they keep forgetting and they keep missing is that the 2010 election sent a group of Republicans to Washington, D.C. to address the fiscal crisis. And, you know, the Democrats had full control. They had all three levers of government. They had the House, the Senate, and the White House. And the American people in 2010 decided that they didn't want that they felt that they did overreach, and they put a stop to it by sending a Republican majority in the House of Representatives. Now it's our job to live out what we said we would do in our campaigns and actually begin to address the deficit spiral and jobs crisis this country has.
Congressman, I'm going to bring you back a summer sausage, I promise. It's a beautiful day here. I'm sorry you're not here to enjoy it. Take care of Washington while we're gone.
Hey, I will do. Thanks, Chris.